Good morning. Welcome to Journey. Would you stand and praise with us today? You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. And you are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. I will sing again.
You are my Father.
Your love is all I need. Your love surrounds me. Your love astounds me. Your love is everything. And I run to you when my heart is weak. I cling to you. You're all I seek. It's my heart's desire to be close to you. Here in your arms, I find my be close to you. Here in your arms, I find my strength.
How are you doing today? Is everybody here? Well, my name is Keith Davis. I am the youth pastor here at Journey. No, if you guys are visitors, I am not Chad Caldwell with a broken leg. I have 2 full feet, but when we're in the youth group, I say, how is everybody doing? And they usually scream, so I need a little more emphasis today. So how's everybody doing today? Good. Blessed in the back, Foster. Very good, very good. I love that. As we go through the next few weeks, we're leading up into Resurrection Sunday, Christ dying on the cross for us. So I have part 1, which is just kind of getting us into the visual of what was happening in that time frame. A lot of times we look at America as, you know, well, that's just not us. That's not a part of us. But we can be a part of that. We are a part of that because Christ lives here. in our hearts. So I have the Casting Crowns video. There's it goes from Bethlehem while you were sleeping, and then it goes to Jerusalem. And it wasn't necessarily while you were sleeping. It's what were you doing when this baby was born to a Virgin Mary? What were you doing when Christ was leading his disciples, and what were you doing when he went onto that cross and died for us? But I kind of want to pinpoint it to America. I want to pinpoint it to us. What are we doing? What are we doing today that continues that? So I have like I said, for the next 3 weeks we're going to start, but I have a visual for you guys. So if everybody can close their eyes and just visualize this. All right, so put yourself in that time period. Now, the time period is we are outside. It's warm and sand is everywhere. So it's kind of like being at the beach, but just sand is everywhere. Pretty much what we're wearing is sandals, maybe no shoes at all. The town is busier than normal. So just pinpoint Covington being very busy, either during the Christmas parade or anything. It's busy. People are there from all over the other towns for Passover, which is in a few days. There's children, animals, merchants, the smell of food, the smell of donkeys, the smell of chickens, and last but not least, the smell of dung everywhere. So like I said, so you guys have that visual. We're there, so you guys can open your eyes. One of the things I want to pinpoint is Jesus knew he was going to Jerusalem. He knew what he was going there for. A lot of people, as we look through all the the disciples and the people of that period and the Pharisees, there was different kind of expectations of what Jesus was doing in Jerusalem, why Jesus was in Jerusalem. So if you guys can turn to John chapter 12, verse 1, and I don't do amen, but I do when. So when you guys are there, say when. You already there? Everybody's already there? All right. So we look on chapter 12, and we start with verse 1. It says, 6 days before the Passover celebration began, Jesus arrived in Bethany, the home of Lazarus, the man he had raised from the dead. Now we skip down, and the reason we are skipping down to verse 9 is the next story kind of is just a separate story that doesn't go along with it. So it's not that we're taking it out of what the story is based on. It's just a story of the woman washing her feet with her hair. It just doesn't kind of correlate to this. So we're kind of skipping down to verse 9. So verse 9 starts with all the people heard of Jesus' arrival, they flocked to see him, and also to see Lazarus, the man Jesus had raised from the dead. Then the leading priests decided to kill Lazarus too, for it was because of him that many of the people had deserted them and believed in Jesus. All right, so pretty much what has happened is Jesus has raised Lazarus from the dead. And you continue, and the Pharisees are getting very upset at this, and the only way that they can get Jesus without getting Jesus right now is to pretty much kill Lazarus. That was their evidence. Their evidence, that was Jesus' evidence that he had that power to be able to raise him from the dead. So the only way to get rid of evidence is to get rid of them. And that's what the Pharisees are essentially trying to do. Now, of course, we step on to later on in the story, and they finally do take Jesus, but they wanted to kind of inkling a little bit at a time to try to doubt everyone that believed in Jesus. We go down to verse 12. This is when Jesus is coming in. The next day, the news that Jesus was on the way to Jerusalem swept through the city. A large crowd of Passover visitors took palm branches and went down to the road to meet him. They shouted, "Praise God, blessing on the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Hail to the King of Israel." Jesus found a young donkey and rode on it, fulfilling the prophecy that said, "Don't be afraid, people of Jerusalem. Look, your king is coming, riding on a donkey's colt." Verse 16 continues with, his disciples didn't understand at the time that it was the fulfillment of this prophecy. But after Jesus entered into his glory, they remembered what had happened and realized that these things had been written about him. Many in the crowd had seen Jesus call Lazarus from the tomb, raising him from the dead, and they were telling others about it. That was the reason so many went out to meet him, because they had heard about this miraculous sign. Then the Pharisees said to each other, "There's nothing we can do. Look, everyone has gone after him." All right, so we take all of that. So Jesus is arriving, and we've all kind of pictured Jesus's arriving on the donkey. I do have a video that kind of just pinpoints that, but Jesus has this donkey. Well, the donkey represents so much more than just a donkey. It was a prophecy that was taught that your king's going to be riding on a donkey. So we pinpoint what the people were actually thinking at this time, what the people were thinking about as Jesus rode in on this donkey. They went and got the palm branches. They went and celebrated his arrival into Jerusalem. So they were telling their friends about Lazarus. You know, this was the man that healed Lazarus, that raised him from the dead. So people were coming to see Jesus like he was a celebrity, like he was something. Well, they were looking at Jesus as the king to take over the land. And we look back as Jesus wasn't the king to take over the land. Jesus was the king to take over our lives, our hearts, and the prophecy of fulfilling his duty to take away our sin. That's why he was sent here. So we look at the people just didn't really get it. They understood, all right, this is Jesus. He did these things, but now he's going to be king of Israel. He's going to be, you know, this high king to take over the land. All of these Pharisees are going to be taken away. All of the slavery is going to be taken away. He's going to take it away a different type of slavery. So then we look at, you know, what are the Pharisees doing at this time? And so the Pharisees were getting more and more upset about the crowds. You know, like I said, they were trying to take away Lazarus. They were trying to take the evidence of Jesus. Now, you know, that's one thing that could possibly turn people away from this Jesus. Like, look, well, Lazarus is no more, so what's your evidence that this guy, you know, did these things? Jesus was taking the spotlight out of the Passover celebration. The Passover celebration, that's why all of those people were in Jerusalem at that time. Jerusalem was a busy city, but it was even busier. It was a mecca of, just imagine, you know, Atlanta with the Georgia, something happened at the Georgia Dome, something happened at Phillips Arena, something happened at the Fox, all rolled into one. There are people there, and then something coming in and taking the spotlight out of that. And I'm going to be honest with you, if I was, you know, there, and I would feel like that Jesus was taking the spotlight if I was a Pharisee. And that's what the Pharisees were trying to do. They were seeing that something else was on the mind of these people other than what they were supposed to be there for. That was the ultimate reason for that. They thought that the only way to get rid of the evidence was of killing Lazarus. Arrest warrants were signed by the high priests and soldiers were on the lookout for Jesus. Instead of welcoming Jesus, the Pharisees were planning to get rid of him. Instead of welcoming the Son of God into their city, the Son of God that was going to take away the sin, the Son of God that was going to relieve the slavery, they're out to get rid of him. So, you know, we look back at the Pharisees, and the Pharisees were very, they're very scholar-oriented of the Bible. They would know the Bible before they were 12 years old. The first 5 books of the Bible, they would know it word for word. But then we look at, well, they may know it, but they don't really know it. And we go back to the whole not a fan thing. And it's they knew about it, they read scripture about him, they knew it, but when they saw him face to face, when they looked at him face to face, they didn't recognize him. They did not recognize the Son of God that came here on a virgin birth, that came to Bethlehem, that fulfilled all the prophecies up until, you know, he's still continuing to fulfill prophecy for the donkey. You know, the donkey is still the representation of prophecy still being fulfilled in Jerusalem. But they looked past it and said, no, all of those are just kind of coincidences, and we're just not really, you know, backing this guy that we think. We think he's going to be, you know, bigger, more powerful. He's not going to be a regular person. He's not going to hang out with the regular people. He's going to be the king. So we're still looking for him. And that's where, you know, the Pharisees kind of have done wrong. We go to the disciples. Now, the disciples were followers. They were followers of Christ. They followed him wherever they went. They were normal people. There wasn't anything most magnificent, special about them. They were just normal, everyday people. And that kind of pinpoints us That pinpoints us that we don't have to be these special, kings or queens or anything. We are who we are. They were fishermen. That's all they were. They were just different. All the disciples had different qualities, but they didn't have any study-oriented. They didn't know a whole lot about stuff, but they were willing to accept Jesus and to accept His teachings. So we look at the disciples. 3 separate occasions in Matthew. There's at least one in Mark and at least one in Luke. And only once in John that Jesus tells the disciples about His death. So 3 separate occasions in Matthew. All the other Gospels have one. 3 separate occasions that Matthew wrote down that Jesus said that, look, they're going to come after me and I'm going to die, but I'm going to come back in 3 days. 3 separate times. I was looking at this as Jesus didn't really waste His words. I don't look at Jesus as just kind of talk to talk. He doesn't waste His words of speaking. So when I'm pinpointing that there were 3 separate occasions that Matthew wrote it down, which of course we go back to Matthew and he was a tax collector, so I think he was kind of more of a basis, get your basis down, get the evidence kind of down. But that pinpoints that meant something. Jesus continually to say something again and again. Like I said, He didn't just say it once. He's continually to say it, and they all heard Him. That meant something. That meant that something was happening. But like I said, He wasn't wasting of words. He wasn't up there to just, say these things and be done with it. He wanted this to make a difference. We look at the disciples as, did they think that this was an important thing? I believe Matthew thought it was very important. Everybody else kind of just mentioned it once. There's not really a whole lot of evidence of how many actual times, you add them all up. But to have someone have it 3 or 4 times, it kind of, all right, well, this was important into this time period. So we look at were they listening? Were they really understanding all of those past times that they were with Jesus and Jesus taught them this parable, or Jesus taught them this story, or Jesus taught them, this is how you should be, or this is how you should act, and all of those things, were they ever really taking that to heart? Were they really ever keeping that with their hearts, or were they just kind of memorizing them in their minds? So we look at, can they believe it? Can they believe that this is going to happen? This guy that has healed many people, has walked on water, has calmed storms, was a virgin birth, was, all of this evidence that they have, could they believe that a person could strike him down and kill him on a cross? A murderer's cross, a criminal's cross. Could these people do that? And pretty much all of them are like, no, nothing's going to happen. We look in Matthew 16, 21, and you can turn there if you want, but this is the first time He talks about His death. This is the first time that He tells the group, this is what's going to happen to me. I'm going to be taken, and I'm going to die, and I'm going to come back. This is the first time. In verse 21, and if you look in verse 21, the first thing that someone says is, this could not be true, Jesus. This could not be true. And it was Peter that said this. This couldn't happen, Jesus. This couldn't happen to you. All of this stuff that has happened in your past, you've gotten through it. You've gotten us through it. How could this end at your such young age? How could that happen? Well, as you read on in verse 21, Jesus tells Peter to quote, Satan, get away from me. Satan, get away from me. And it goes into, he talks about Peter having Satan in him because he doesn't believe everything that he has seen. He hasn't really taken it to heart. And, that continues with Peter as we progress into the story. But that's just kind of the first representation, the first evidence of the disciples kind of splitting up. And I don't want to go too far forward, but next week Chad's going to be talking about that, is the disciples, there were a tight-knit group and they scattered. I'm sorry for take it. Do you want me to go ahead and do yours too? Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. But that just correlates to that. Is this was his first doubt, and once you get a first doubt in, and once you get nervous about something or get anxious about something, it continues. If you let it muster, if you let it grow, it's going to continue to destroy you. And that's what happened to Peter, as we all know. But the thing I want to ask is, would we have believed it? After seeing all of these awesome signs, all of these awesome miracles, would we really believe that Jesus was going to die on a cross in front of everybody and have to pull his cross through, get whipped, and all of that? And I kind of took it back to me as, first the Pharisees just didn't really believe that it was Jesus at all. Didn't really believe that it was the Messiah. But for me to see, all of the stories that Jesus has taught and has done, you kind of look at it as like, well, maybe I wouldn't have believed him. I wouldn't have believed that he was going to die the way he died. But like I said, that's fulfilling prophecy. That's going back to the Old Testament. They're going back to when everything was taught about him before he was there. And you have to read along with that and say, okay, well, this is how this Messiah was going to, this is what was going to happen in the whole perspective. The Son of God being put a murderer's death, that just kind of rings, in today's term of, would we be able to really believe that the Son of God, if he was here standing right next to me and saying, I'm going to die, but in 3 days I'm going to raise, how many of us would believe that? How many of us would believe that he could suffer just as much as we suffer? He could suffer a human torture as much as we could. We look at Jesus as this awesome, person, this awesome Son of God, this awesome Jesus. I mean, you just look at him as that. But then you say, but he's going to get dialed down to my level. He's going to get dialed down to my suffering, to my, having to eat and drink, to having to be. But that was the whole point. That was the whole point of Jesus coming to earth. Was for him to understand us. And so we look at, what are we doing? How do we miss Jesus every day? How do we miss talking to Jesus every day? We get so busy in the day in and day out. We got to go to work. I got to get up early in the morning to get to work. I'm getting off late. I have baseball practice to take my son to. I got to take ballet to. We get so caught up in just everything that we are missing Jesus every day. We're missing him. We're passing him by. But as Christians especially, we in America, and I'm sorry to say this, but we have gotten comfortable. We are comfortable in our day in and day out. We haven't seen Jesus face to face in a one-on-one situation, being here standing in full flesh. But we can see him every day, and we have chosen not to. We have gotten comfortable. The big thing is the secret church. That is an awesome thing that I love, because there's people out in other Muslim communities that they're Christians, and they have to pray in a cave, or they have to quietly pray. They have to kind of shield themselves because they could get killed. And we come in and say, I just didn't get a chance to pray today. I was just kind of busy. We've had all day to be able to do that. We've had all day to be able to learn about Jesus, and we choose not to. The Pharisees missed it. They knew about the stories. They knew exactly what was going to happen, but they missed it. They didn't see it as real. They missed the boat on that one, as some people would say. They missed it to the point that they killed it. And that's kind of the realization that we have to kind of look into. And one of the things I look at with the Pharisees is they overlooked him. They overlooked Jesus being who he was and who he said he was. But one of the things is, how do we look past Jesus today? How do we look past, how do we get so caught up in what we're doing that's so much more important. And this past series, and I go back to the Not a Fan series, but this past Not a Fan series has really brought a lot of light to my eyes, to my heart, to really see, you know, are we just knowing of Jesus, and He's kind of there, and so is, you know, another celebrity, or so is our Facebook, or so is our Twitter accounts, or so is whatever that can stop us from having that relationship. What has stopped? You know, what has stopped that relationship? What has stopped it in its traction and taken the limelight that Jesus had when He came through Jerusalem, when He came through, that was so exciting for those people. They didn't exactly understand it, but they knew that was the King. They didn't understand the entire story, but they knew that was the King. And my thing is, and my goal and my encouragement to everyone is, let's pick up our palm branches. Let's start waving them to Jesus. Let's celebrate that Jesus is here right now, not pass by Him. I have a funny story, and it goes on how we treat Jesus as an everyday kind of a thing. We just kind of get comfortable with Him. He's just there, and we don't really look past why He's in our lives, or what He's doing in our lives, or how do we turn to Him. And so the story is, Kaylee and I actually just recently, at the beginning of this year, moved to a home in Loganville. And thanks for Chad and Jimmy and everybody else that moved us there. But I pinpoint it to, we lived at the lofts, and we didn't have that much space, but we had things in there, and every day we have like this table. They call it a buffet table, but I've never put food on it, so I don't understand it. But it's like a buffet table. It's got 2 lamps on it, and we had a metal cross that sat there. Well, when I put that metal cross there, I remembered it. Every time I would walk past it, I would remember that cross being sitting there, and it really kind of just let me think about it. You know, it wasn't kind of a thing that I had to look at it to remember Jesus, to walk out the door, but kind of just a resemblance of Jesus and the cross and what He did for us. Well, you know, the first week I put it on, and every day I would look at it. The next week, do the same. Kind of went on. A few months down the road, I looked at it, but didn't really look into it. I just kind of, oh, it's just there. Okay. You know, and we continued to do that. And like I said, recently we boxed up all of the stuff, boxed up the crosses, boxed up everything that was in our entire loft, and we moved. Well, what happens when you move is you move all the stuff, and eventually you have to unpack it, right? So, you know, you go into the kitchen, well, all right, here's my pots and pans. We can finally have macaroni and cheese and not have to eat out all the time. Here's my books. All right, I should have just left them on the bookshelf. Wait, I did leave them on the bookshelf, sorry. Sorry, I did leave them on the bookshelf. But anyways, so, you know, you would pack them away. The guys out there know what I'm talking about. I left books on my bookshelf, and I have a lot of thick books, and they weren't very happy about moving it with the bookshelf, so I think they're still taking that out on me. But so you unpack the stuff, you get all this stuff. Well, gradually you start opening up boxes, and you know, when you move into a new house, what's on the walls? Nothing, right? Nothing is on the walls. So you paint the walls, and you have to eventually put stuff on the walls, I would hope. As long as that's what we did. So, you know, we would open up a box and say, oh man, this is amazing. This is awesome. I forgot all about that. I had this Napoleon Dynamite little bobblehead thing. I love that. That's awesome. Here's my little chatterbox monkey. All right, that's cool. You know, and you start opening up stuff, and it's like a new day. It's like a new thing. Like it's, you know, it's like you're getting gifts, but you already had the gifts. You just forgot about them. So you open up all these boxes, and you're just like, okay, well, we can put that there, we can put that there, and everything is new. Some of that stuff I had seen every single day as I walked past. The picture of us, our engagement picture that had all the signings, I'd walk past it. You know, the pictures of us, you know, on our vacation, I'd walk past it. The cross, I would walk past it. And when we opened up those boxes, and this is how I kind of go with opening up boxes, is Is that how we treat Jesus, is we just walk past him? We just get so used to something being there that our eyes just, and that's what happens to our brains. Once something is there for a period of time, we kind of just, it just blends into the environment. It blends into the landscape. And as I was thinking about that, I said, well, is that kind of how what we do with Jesus? Is he kind of just blends in? You know, we get baptized. We have this spirit that's inside of us, and yes, I'm going to do everything. And 2 weeks later, all right, thanks, Jesus. You know, we put him aside. We put him in the box. You know, we put him in a box that we can take with us and carry around and move with us. But my thing is, why don't we treat Jesus like we did when we got baptized, when we got saved, when we turned to him and gave all of our stuff? Why don't we do that daily? And that's the thing that I want to ask you guys is, the first day that we, and I say opened lightly, but that we opened Jesus. We opened ourselves, our heart to Jesus. You know, that first day, and I can picture it. I can go back in the day that I did that, and I was like, wow, that's just an amazing day. You know, you just have that spirit, you have that fulfillment, you're just filled up so much. But gradually, things come in our way. You know, we have kids, they have school, we have this, we have that. And I am not lucky of having a child yet, but I know it's busy. I know it takes time. I don't have children, but I feel like I'm always busy. But the thing about it is why don't we treat Jesus like we're opening up him every single day? Like he is a gift from God. When we were planning this Easter series, and I told Chad, I said, all right, you can pinpoint any day you want. I'll teach. I love it. Not anywhere near Easter, or not Easter itself. And he said, okay, that's fine. You get 2 weeks in front of Easter. I was like, oh. Well, when we were planning this was in Christmas time. So Christmas time is the birth of Jesus, right? So the birth of Jesus is more, you know, it hits home more than just Christmas and opening up gifts and this. He is the gift from God. He is the gift that God gave us. And we don't treat him like that. We don't treat him like a new thing every day for us to be taught, for us to grow, for us to really grow in our spirituality, to grow emotionally, to grow physically into what God wants us to be. We look at Jesus as, all right, Jesus, you know, I'm having a bad day. I'm going to talk to you, and that's it. We don't go to Jesus and say, hey, I had an awesome day. Thank you for waking me up this morning. Thank you. Not, man, I just woke up late this morning. It's going to be a bad day. I'm going to get to work late. And that's how our minds go. I'm going to get to work late. I'm going to have to stay late. It's going to get in my schedule. It's going to get all crazy. Instead of just saying, oh, I woke up late, but thank you for at least waking me up. And that's what I want to pinpoint is what we do with Jesus. What do we do with Jesus on a daily basis? Do we take him for granted? Do we take him as something that is just something that's in our schedule, something that we can pinpoint to say, all right, Jesus, I have this show that I watch for an hour when I get home, but for 30 minutes, I'm going to talk to you in between the commercials. Every commercial that comes on, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to give you that time. And I look at that as, we've just dialed Jesus down to commercials. We've just dialed Jesus down to something that he wants so much more and he can teach us. And one of the things I look at is commercials don't really teach us that much. Commercials don't really bring us anything, you know. All right, it may make us hungry when the McDonald's commercial comes on, you know. But to have just that time period with Jesus is not enough. It's not enough. And to say, well, but I'm talking to Jesus and I get to spend time with Jesus. Yeah, but he's your afterthought. You know, one of the things is we can't put him as an afterthought. We can't put him as something that we just think of at the end of the day, or we think of, you know, throughout the day that we hear something has happened to somebody or something wrong is going on that we turn to him. We need to turn to him all the time. Now, is that going to take time? Is that going to take our sacrifice to do that? Yeah, It is. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice to do that. But by doing that, we're going to grow so much more than you can ever imagine. And 3 years ago, I started, I got, I guess you would say upgraded, I guess, to youth pastor. I don't know, upgraded or pushed up, or hey, you're going to do this and you're going to like it. No. And I said, you know what? And one of the biggest things 3 years ago that I could pinpoint was, I'm always going to be a children. I'm always going to work with children. I love children. I love being crazy. I love getting in costumes. And God said, wait, no. You're going to have to stop that. And so for the first few months, I'm just kind of like, oh, how did I get into this? How did I get into this? Why did I, accept this? Why did I do this? But from that point on, in the past 3 years has been an amazing journey. And it's just been an amazing journey to know that God led me to this, God prepared me for this, and I've continued this. I've had to sacrifice time, I've had to sacrifice effort, but I feel it has been for the glory of God. God has given me this gift and this being able to speak, being able to relate to students. And I have to accept that, and I have to do that. But every day has been a blessing since that day. And I looked at it as a bad thing, and I could have just continued, like Peter said, it's just, nothing's going to happen to you, blah, blah, and it continued, and then Peter pretty much said, no, and I don't know Jesus. Anyway, so we go into that story, but I could have continued that. In the past 3 years could have been of me. Could have been, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to teach these students. I want to be in children forever. But I had to finally realize, look, I know that Jesus is a blessing, and Jesus has taught me a lot and taught me a lot of very good lessons that I wouldn't have ever been able to teach on my own. We look at Matthew 13, verse 10 through 23, and we go back to what we are doing. And I'll just kind of talk as you guys turn. And when I stop hearing, I'll start reading. But do we see Jesus as something that has taken up our precious time, or it's just taken up, or is our precious time taken up by Jesus? And this is a parable, and this is the prophecy of Isaiah, is where this comes from. So it's a parable of Jesus, but it was a prophecy from Isaiah in Matthew 13, 10 through 23. Which I don't think I have the complete, but a portion of that starts with verse 13 and 14. It says, when you hear what I say, you will not understand. When you see what I do, you will not comprehend. For the hearts of these people are hardened, and their ears cannot hear. And they have closed their eyes, so their eyes cannot see, and their ears cannot hear, and their hearts cannot understand. And they cannot turn to me and let me heal them. So that is a prophecy from Isaiah that Jesus brings back. Jesus brings back to the focus and says, are your hearts hardened? Do you not see me? You're not going to hear me. You're not going to understand me. You're not going to comprehend what I'm telling you. You just have to have faith and believe in me. And I pinpoint that to not only the disciples, not only to the Pharisees, but also to us. If we're not willing to listen, we're not going to hear anything. If Kaylee is talking to me and I don't want to listen to her, am I going to hear what she's saying? No. And what's going to happen? I'm going to get in trouble. Yeah. Kaylee, that's violent. I'm going to get into a lot of trouble. And what happens when we continue to do that? We don't see what God's doing in our lives, and we take this path, or we, what? This job is for me, and I'm going to take it. I'm going to take this job because I need it. But you haven't prayed about it. You haven't seen what God has prepared for you. So you're going into something with these high expectations, these high hopes. And what happens to those high hopes when they're all yours and they're not God's? They fail. Things fail. We're all failures. We're all sinners. And if you look at it as turning to yourself and trying for only you to get through something, you're doing about it the wrong way. You need God. You need Jesus to strengthen you. Like I said, the past 3 years would have been would have been probably the most difficult 3 years, and I probably would have had gray hair or no hair at all, and who knows where I could have been, if I would have just continued my path that I thought was what I was supposed to do, instead of really kind of molding myself and letting God mold me at the same time into the path that He wanted me to have. And I thank God for that every day. And I thank God for allowing me to have an awesome wife that I've taught her everything of singing possible. And she has gotten to that. You don't believe that? I'm sorry, no. No, to have a wife that is awesome and just meshes with us. We mesh with each other so well that just understands me, that pushes me, that encourages me, and that has an awesome singing voice and loves God. And I thank God for that. I thank God for the things that He has given me, the lessons I have learned. And I couldn't do it without Him. I would have never been able to do it without Him. And we can have the band come up, but the question is, we go back to what are we doing, but what should we do with Jesus? What should we be doing with Jesus right now? And it goes back to making Him our one and only, not our one of many. Making Him the one and only in our lives. Now, we're going to have stuff in our lives. We all do. We all have things that go on. We have to go to work. We have to take care of the kids. We have to take them to baseball practice. But are you letting those things take over Him and His willingness to help you, His willingness to show you things? Or are you just putting Him kind of on the back burner? He's the center of everything else. And the other thing, one other thing that we need to do is put Him on a throne in our hearts, in our lives. Put Him on the throne. Put Him on the controlling thing in our lives, and that's going to make things so much easier. Are we still going to have bad days? Yes, we're still going to have bad days. It's not going to be dandelions and flowers and we're just going to be around. We're going to have bad days. But to get through those bad days, you turn to Jesus, because Jesus has been there. Jesus has been there because you have let Him be there. Jesus is always in our lives. It's, do we let Him into our lives? We have to take that step. We have to step over that threshold. And then we don't treat Him like a burden. Don't treat Him like the Pharisees did. Don't treat Him like, well, we're just going to get rid of Him and everything's going to be easier because, He's not a burden to us. He should never be a burden to us. He should be our top throne seating guy that helps us, that heals us, that comforts us, that holds us, everything. Because that is what He is in our lives, and that's what He should be. Have a relationship with Him daily, and listen, see, and open our hardened hearts to Him. We all have hardened hearts, and sometimes through our society, through our culture, through our busyness of our lives, we start hardening up that heart. We just start, it closes in, and we try to pull it close to us instead of just letting God have it, letting God have our hearts, and letting God take control of our lives in that. So I want you guys to really kind of let that mellow, let that sink in. Can we open Jesus up every day and have Him a new being, a new life to us? Can we do that? And that's what I want to really encourage you guys to do, to really look at as, can we make Him a new thing every day? Or are we just going to be part of something else in our lives?
Break our hearts. Our hearts, oh God, break our hearts, and for the sin hearts. And we cry out, we need your help. God, won't you come back to our land? And we confess we lived in sin. Please show your power once again and break our hearts. Oh God, break our hearts, and break our hearts. Oh God, break our hearts. And for the sin in our lives, break our hearts. And for the sin in our land, break our hearts. And we cry out, we need your help. God, won't you come back to our land? And we confess we lived in sin. Please show your power once again. And we cry out, we need your help. God, won't you come back to our land? And we confess we lived in sin. Please show your power once again and break our hearts. Oh God, break our hearts, and break our hearts.